This is Alex Plays from iFix Your Mix. Please subscribe to our channel. Today I'm going to be reacting to Charli XCX'S Good Ones. Now if you don't know who Charli XCX is, she's an incredible artist out of the UK. She was discovered on MySpace by a rave promoter. He put her on stage and the rest is history. She has worked with some really big names. She worked with Iggy Azalea on the song Fancy. She co-wrote the hook to that song. And in 2015, that was nominated for 2 Grammys. She's worked with Shawn Mendes. She's worked with Selena Gomez, just to name a few. This song is a single that was released in 2021 in September. And it's part of an album called Crash. And I'm really excited to talk about this because I have a whole bunch of comments and reactions that I'm going to be doing in real time. And then after that, I'm going to go deeper into those reactions and the notes that I made. I'm going to show you some production techniques. I'm going to talk about some of her songwriting techniques and her stylistic choices. Let's just get right into this, and I'm going to do my reaction video first. Here we go. I like this bass drop at the beginning. Hear a little bit of bit crushing coming in there. It's a nice lead synth. Sounds a little bit like the Prophet synth, something like the Eurythmics would use. I like how the vocal's right in front. A nice cymbal there. The snare drum's really tasty, very impactful. And the hats just came in here more. Here's some reverb coming in. Oh wow, that's a lot of reverb coming in there. That's a nice DJ effect there. That's a nice use of octaves on her voice there. It's a nice lead line there. Back to that analog synth that we had at the beginning. And that's a nice delay at the end that she used on her voice. I hadn't heard any delay on her voice throughout the whole song. Really well done. All right, now let's do the more in-depth feedback.
Here's a short clip of Sweet Dreams by the Eurythmics. Now that you've heard Sweet Dreams by the Eurythmics, I think you get a sense of where the producer of this track, Oscar Holter, might have gotten his inspiration for that bass lead line at the beginning. And I would probably go into my analog toolkit here, and the Prophet synth has some really good patches, and the 80s bass patch sounds a lot like what we've been hearing in the track. Right, I went up an octave there, so you can get a sense of the difference of sound as we move up octaves. So go up one more, right? And if you just go to the filter, right, you're going to filter that sound and choose the cutoff frequency. Listen to this. That really changes things. And if I add some resonance, you started hearing that in the track in some points as well. That could have been automated in. Who knows how he did it? I would probably go ahead and overdrive that signal, and I can go to the tone that I want to drive, right? The frequency. Right? And that filtration will definitely add some flavor. Now, before this sound came in on the song, there was some bit crushing that I had pointed out. And that was basically being done to some of the sound design of the song. I just want you to hear what bit crushing sounds like. So in the old days, when you had video games, they had a synth chip in the game itself, and the resolution was very low. You hear that? I'm going to downsample and increase the mix of this plugin, which means that you're going to hear more of the effect. Let's go and reduce the resolution. Right? So that's what bit crushing sounds like. So that's some of what was happening at the beginning, and that created a sense of when the song's sound design began, right? So some producers like to make reference to things that happened in the past, and so you use those as colors, right? And those colors evoke a feeling that might even be subconscious or subliminal. A lot of artists are looking backwards towards sounds, in particular because a lot of the drum machine sounds of really big songs are very popular, and they're still used today. And that brings us to the next thing that I'm going to talk about, which is drums. And specifically, I spoke to you a little bit about the snare drum. So let's take a look at that. So when it comes to drums, I would look into sounds that came from the 1980s. And in this case, I'm using Native Instruments battery plugin. And they have a lot of the Roland 808 and 909 sounds. That was a drum machine that was used and still is used from the 80s. And this snare drum was the closest to what I heard in the track. I've saturated the signal, which means that I'm adding, it could be a warm tube sound, so it's going through a tube amplifier, and there are artifacts or there are colorings that occur to the signal itself, right? There are harmonics that occur, right? I could also filter that, right? And you can see that I've cut off the frequency at that point right there, which is 2.8 kilohertz, and I've added some resonance, thereby boosting the frequency. Again, I would do this while her voice was singing and within the track and the context itself. But this is how you kind of get that tasty sounding sound. You could also compress the signal. Depending on how you mess with the attack or not, it can either make it sound bigger or smaller. Really just depends. You might need to increase the output. That really punches it up. Let's talk about octaves and reverb when producing a voice. So Charli used octaves in several places, in particular after the chorus came in and then later on in the song. And what's really good about that is that it makes it sound like there's more people singing the same thing at a different tone, but not different enough so that it sounds like a different melody. That's what an octave can do. But it's also useful in orchestration because you could put an instrument in between the octave itself, and that makes for more interesting things happening in the arrangement itself. And so in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you hear what a regular voice sounds like, and I'm going to let you hear that voice an octave above, doubled to that regular voice, and then I'll add some reverb so that you can hear exactly what I was talking about. Okay, and now let's add the octave above. Right, and let's just hear just the octave. And now let's hear them together. Great, and so Charli also used something really cool, which was an amazing reverb, and that created a cool effect at the chorus. Let me have you hear that over here. And you can play with the length of the reverb. And this is where the producer can be very musical about that. The length can correspond to measure lengths, right? And let me just do one more thing. And we were talking about the very end of Charli's song where she had some delay. And I'm just going to show you briefly what that is like. So take a listen here. This is delay, right? And this is delay that's in a tempo, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, right? 4/4 time, right? You can have a variety of flavors of delay depending on how you want the effect to work within the structure of the song itself. But that's what it looks like they were using at the very end to get that delay out of the track. All right, that wraps up my reaction video. Thanks for watching and tune in next time.